Okay, if you clicked on this video, you're probably looking to get a brand new diving mask. Or you're going to get your very first diving mask, but you have no idea where to start with this. But what you do know is that you want one that's going to fit your face properly so that it won't leak all the time when wearing it. And you don't want one that's going to keep fogging up on all your dives either. And you don't want one that's going to be very uncomfortable to wear and leave a big bright red ring around your face at the end of the dive. Not a good look. But you won't have to worry about any of that, as that won't happen to you now because you have me here. Hi. My name's Tom and I'm a diving professional, and I'm going to guide you through everything you need to know about diving masks so that you can find the perfect one for you. We'll be covering all the different types of masks you can find so you can narrow down which ones are relevant to what your needs are. We'll also talk about how to check if it's going to fit your face properly and all the ways to check this. And I'm going to show you what to do to brand new masks to make sure they won't ever fog up on your dives as well. As always, timestamps are in the description so you can skip ahead to any relevant parts you want to watch. But let's start with the most relevant question. Should you even have your own diving mask? And honestly, you actually can get away with no diving mask. I'm guessing if you're watching this video, you've already tried diving and you know you can get a rental mask. This is pretty standard in the industry, so it's not like if you don't have your own mask, you can't go diving. There's always one available. It's just, they're not the best quality all the time. You might get an old one where the skirting around it's a bit worn down, so the mask is quite prone to leaking. They also might be a bit grimy and gross, and I don't know about you, but I don't like putting weird and gross things in my face. And yes, I realise I probably could make a joke there, but...
That's what she said!
Yeah. The other reasons I really promote having your own mask is because it's the first piece of equipment I think you should get as a diver. They're very cheap and affordable to get, which is ironic because diving is a pretty expensive hobby, but masks are actually on the cheap end of this. On top of that, they're also really easy to travel with. They are something you can always just put in a backpack, and even if you're not sure if you're going to go diving, you always have the option to then, and you've always got this perfect mask that's going to fit your face. And the other reason I just think it's great is because it can really make or break your diving. If you're wearing an uncomfortable mask, or one you have to keep flooding to get rid of the fog, or it just keeps leaking and you have to keep clearing it all the time on a dive, it just can spoil the experience and it's not really that enjoyable to have. So for those reasons, I really will promote that you get your own mask. And from this video, you're going to find the best mask for you. So without further ado, let's go into it. Starting off with style. You've probably noticed when you've seen people diving, there's a lot of different masks out there. Some of them have different types of lenses, some of them have different types of frames, and you're not really sure what the differences are. I'm going to talk you all through that, explain the pros and cons of each, so that way you can know which ones are going to be the best ones for you, and it's going to allow you to save time not looking at all these other masks which are relevant to your needs. Starting off, we're going to look at the double lens mask. This one is the one with two clear windows on the front of it. The big advantage to this mask is that you can put prescription lenses in it. If you're someone who needs glasses on day-to-day life just to see, this is a must-have for you diving too, because wearing contact lenses is not very practical for scuba diving. And especially trying to put your glasses underneath your mask is definitely a no-go too. The other big pro for this mask is it's good for freediving as well. It's because it's a low volume mask. Low volume just means that the airspace in between your face and the mask is a smaller one than normal. This just means that it's easier to equalise that airspace because it's smaller. So when you're freediving, this is a big advantage. It's not so good for scuba, but if you think you're going to do a bit of both, it can be a nice all-in-one mask, and that way you don't have to have two separate masks for two different things.
This is brilliant, but I like this.
When it comes to downside though, this mask does have a bad field of view. They're typically, because there are only two small windows you're looking out of, it does restrict how much field of view you will have, but some people don't reckon this is a problem for them. And again, this will come down to you personally. You might find it's completely fine for you, or you might feel a bit claustrophobic when wearing these masks and they're not a good fit for you. Which perfectly leads me on to the next mask, which is the single lens mask, also known as the frameless mask. So instead of having two lenses, this mask just has one big lens to look out of. And this fixes the narrow field of view issue that the double lens mask has, which makes you feel less claustrophobic typically. I also have the other pro for this mask, that it looks very aesthetic. I know, personal choice, might be relevant to some people, but these masks photograph really well, as they show a lot of your face expressions off so people can see it, and you look very cool wearing them, which might be something you care about, if you're a vain bastard like myself.
Did you ever think that maybe there's more to life than being really, really, really ridiculously good looking?
The downside with this mask is that they are worse for freediving, because these do have a higher volume, so they are harder to equalise when going down. Again, not so relevant for scuba, but if you plan to do some freediving, it can be less practical. I will say I have done freediving with a single lens mask in the past, and it's still possible, it's just not as easy to do so. The next consideration for masks are the clear frame masks. These do come in both double lens and single lens, by the way, but the big advantage for this mask is that you get peripheral view because the skirting on them is completely clear. This is probably the best solution if you are someone who still feels a bit claustrophobic when wearing even a single lens mask.
Peripheral vision.
As this way then you even have more awareness when in the water. I will say though, this is probably the highest maintenance mask. If you're someone who's a bit lazy with the gear and don't rinse it off properly and don't look after it, unfortunately this clear skirting does go a bit cloudy and looks a bit like mold and is kind of gross. And the advantage you gain from having that peripheral vision is going to disappear too with that.
And it's gone.
So not only do you have a gross looking mask, you don't really have the advantage what you got the mask for in the first place either.
It really smells like a public restroom.
And the other thing I will say is even if the mask doesn't get mouldy, they are probably the least aesthetic looking masks, as people can see right up your nose with that. So if you have any snot there in the nose pocket, everyone's going to see that. Again, if you don't care about vanity or don't care how you look when diving, this is irrelevant. But I know if you're like myself, I kind of get a bit bothered by how I look on dives, and I don't want to be that person everyone's looking at going, oh god, he's got a snotty nose. Again, just personal preference, but just something I think because I'm aware of it, you might be aware of it as well. The next consideration is elastic straps. These things are awesome. Basically, instead of having the typical silicone strap on the back, these are elastic so they're easier to adjust and they just slide over your hair. If you're like me and have kind of long hair, this is a big win because it just slides nice and easy onto your hair and you don't have to worry about it getting tangled in there or making it hard to fidgety to get or finicky to get onto your head. However, I will say if you do have a silicone strap mask, there is a solution, and that are these mask straps. They're just made out of neoprene, they are very cheap and they have a similar effect. They're not quite as good as the elastic bands, but they are pretty good too. And I would say the elastic strap is one of those things, it's nice to have if it is there, but don't make it a deal breaker as they're not as common as the other type of mask straps. And the final consideration is tinted lens masks. I'm going to be honest, I'm not a fan of these. And the main reason is they're very situational. They're really good if you want to go somewhere sunny, so when you get back to the surface at the end of a dive, you don't have to worry about the sun's glare blinding your face, because it acts like a pair of sunglasses. However, most divers I know typically just take their mask off once you get to the surface anyway, so it kind of is a bit irrelevant in that sense. The only time they are useful is then in the shallows in a sunny location, because the light rays sometimes can be a bit intense in the shallows. But any deeper than like 10 meters and the tintedness kind of isn't very, the tintedness isn't very effective then. On top of that, I also think they're kind of bad because they hide your eyes. Not in a creepy way that I want to look into your eyes, but from the perspective of an instructor and of a guide, we often like to look at people's faces to know what they're thinking. So we can spot if someone's feeling uncomfortable or if they're panicked, and it helps us spot these issues sooner. And just a reminder, it's not just new divers who panic, any diver can experience a panic in the water. And those are the main considerations I would make. This is going to help you narrow down which masks now you're going to want to look at the store so that you don't have to spend the time looking at every single mask. Because I know you don't want to do that. You've got other things to do. So how do you know which mask is going to be the best one for you? Well, let's talk about fit now. When it comes to fit, you are actually going to have to be the one to find this one out yourself, unfortunately. You can't just go off for friends' recommendations or go on your favourite brand for this one, because you have a unique face and your face is only going to fit a certain type of mask. So a friend's recommendations are kind of irrelevant unless you have an identical twin recommending the masks to you, but I don't think many of us have that, so unfortunately you're going to have to find out this yourself. But don't worry, I'm here for you because I'm going to show you 4 different tests to make sure you find the best mask for yourself. However, we are going to start off with making sure you can put on a mask properly. I know this sounds really dumb, but just bear with me on this one because so many people don't wear the masks properly and it makes the whole thing of finding the best fitting mask kind of irrelevant if you're not even wearing it properly in the first place. So to put on a mask, you're going to first want to clear your hair out of the way, again if you've got long hair like myself. You're then going to place the mask onto the front of your face, making sure it's all lined up, your nose in the nose pocket and whatnot. And then you're going to pull the mask strap over the back of your head, line it with the dimple on the back of your skull. I'm going to put a picture on screen because I don't know how to describe it, what the actual name is, but it's a little bit higher up than most people expect. When you have it this high is that it doesn't press down on your ears, because if this is pressing down on your ears, it's firstly uncomfortable, it's going to make them stick out and look really weird, but after 1 hour diving, it's going to really irritate your ears and leave them quite sore and raw. So this is why we have our masks slightly higher up than usual. We also want it to be a little bit looser than you expect. If you have the mask as tight as possible on your face, it's going to squeeze, and once we go underwater with the added pressure, it's going to get even tighter on your face. This is why some people end the dive with these big red rings around their face, which is a pretty awful look if you ask me. So you just want to have a tiniest bit of slack. I'm not saying like hey, your mask is wiggling around everything, it's just having like it feel comfortable, it sits on your face, it won't move, but it's not squeezing your face either. And that's how to wear a mask correctly. Now let's move on to the test to make sure these masks are actually good fits for you. So the first test is called the inhale test. Just like before, you're going to move all your hair out of the way and then place the mask in front of your face, but this time you're not going to put the strap around your head, you're just going to have it dangling down. Now all you have to do is take a breath in with your nose, and you want to see if the mask sits on your face or if it falls off.
Mission failed. We'll get them next time.
If it stays in place, it shows that the seal around the mask is actually really good. It means the skirting's following around your face shape really well, and it's not actually letting any air in and out, meaning the mask won't leak, meaning it's a good fit for you. So if the mask stays in place, it passes the test. The next test is called the mirror test. For this one, as you probably can guess, you're going to want to stand in front of a mirror. Or if you fancy, you can just get your camera out on your mobile device. This time you want to wear the mask properly, so make sure the strap is now back around your head. You're just going to have a look at that handsome self in the mirror and just basically check around the skirting and make sure you can't see any physical gaps either. It might also help to run your finger around as well, just to feel for any gaps. Anything like wrinkles or little holes is what you're looking for. If the mask looks completely flush and feels completely flush on your face, it has passed the test. The third test is called the pressing test. This one's a bit self-explanatory and you probably should know this straight away, but you want to make sure the mask lens is not pressing against your face, as during a dive, when there's added pressure, this is going to get even more uncomfortable. So the 4 areas you need to check are your forehead, the bridge up your nose, the tip of your nose, and your cheeks. I'll be honest, cheeks are a bit of an uncommon one, but I just felt like mentioning them. It's only if you have really pronounced cheekbones, so unless you've got amazing bone structure, you probably can skip that one. But if the mask lens is not being pressed against any of those parts, you have passed the test for this one as well. And the fourth and final test is the rotation test. Whilst wearing your mask correctly, all you want to do is move your head around. The easiest way to think about it is that what you want to do is mimic what you would do on a dive. So you do rotations, so going clockwise, followed by anti-clockwise, look left, look right, look up, look down. The idea is that you want to see if the mask is staying in place and isn't wiggling around or sliding anywhere, you know it's a good fit and it has passed the test. And those are the 4 tests you need to do for checking your mask fits properly. Even if the first mask does pass all these tests, it is worth still checking out the other masks as well, just to make sure one doesn't just fit the tests better than this one, or maybe it's cheaper, or maybe it just looks better. This is just all things to consider when you're getting your mask. So repeat these 4 tests on all the masks which are relevant to what you want, and that way then you'll find the best mask for yourself. So congratulations, you now have your perfect mask. But there's one more step you need to do before you can go diving with it, and that is called treating, also known as burning the mask. So why do you need to treat a brand new mask? Shouldn't it be perfect already? Well, manufacturers like to put a little piece of film on the inside of the masks. This is just so that when it's in transit and at the stores, it won't get scratched or damaged. However, this piece of film will cause masks to fog up when underwater, which we don't really want to happen, so we're going to need to remove that. So there are 2 main methods to do this. I'm going to start off with the most easy one and one you can probably do straight away, and it's called the Toothpaste Method. And as you can probably guess, you need some toothpaste for this. Ideally though, you want some to be quite a grainy and gritty toothpaste, as this is going to really help scrub off that film layer. All you need to do is get your mask out and put a little dollop of it inside of the mask layer. It literally only needs to be the size of a pea or a small fingernail, whichever is a better visual for you to imagine. And then with 2 fingers, I just choose 2, I like to use 2 fingers, you're just going to want to rub it in nice and thoroughly. Make sure you get into every crack and crevice, and I just realised how this might look to some people. Don't go pervy on me here guys, we're sorting masks out, don't have any weird images in your head. But anyway, be nice and thorough, make sure you get it definitely into the sides, as this is the area people often miss, and these are the areas where you often spot the fogging because they didn't do the sides properly. Once you've covered the whole mask lens, you then just want to let it sit for a few minutes, and then you're going to rinse it out with water. Make sure you're very thorough at rinsing it out, because if there is any toothpaste still in there and you go diving and water gets in your mask, that's going to sting really bad, because eyes and toothpaste do not mix very well. And typically this might not be perfect the first time you do it. What you can do is to check by breathing on the mask. You might spot then some heat spots where it fogs up, and if you notice that, that's when you want to just do this method again. From my own experience, this typically takes about 2 to 3 times doing this, and it should hopefully be perfect by then. But if your mask is being a bit more stubborn, you might want to do it a few more times, or you might want to try out this next method, which is called the lighter method. This is why they call it mask burning right away, because it's the old school way of doing it. They literally just use a lighter flame, apply it to the inside of the mask lens, and burn away the film that way. Quick disclaimer though, before you do this. Firstly, be careful with your hands so you don't burn them. And secondly, I am not responsible for damaging your mask. I've never seen anyone break a mask from doing this. However, according to the internet, so take this with a pinch of salt, people have broken their masks from using lighters in the past. So again, if you don't want to do that, you spent a lot of money on your mask to get a very snazzy one, you might want to just stick to the toothpaste method. But if you are going to do it with a lighter, it's quite self-intuitive. Hold the lighter flame to the inside of the mask and you should start seeing the little circles appearing where the mask is burning away the film. Just move it around, make sure you get close to the edge. Be careful not to burn the skirting though when doing this. And once you've covered the whole of the inside mask lens with the lighter, then you just want to rinse out all the black sooty bits. I think it's soot or carbon. I don't really know because I'm not that sciencey, so if anyone wants to confirm or deny that in the comments, feel free. But once you've cleared it all out and its mask is all nice and clean, you should be good to go. However, just like the toothpaste method, it sometimes might take a few more attempts, so just rinse and repeat this 2 or 3 times and you should be good to go. If you do notice though your mask still is fogging up on dives, come back to either method or try out the other method as well and it should be good. But if you follow this correctly, congratulations, you have now got a mask ready to go diving with. Well, I say that, but there's actually one more thing you want to do, and this is something you do immediately before you're about to go underwater, and it's called pre-dive anti-fogging, or at least that's what I like to call it myself. So even though you've removed this film from the inside of your mask, there's still a chance that the mask can fog up.
Surprise, motherfucker!
Which is not ideal. And with diving, we want to get rid of as many risks as possible, one of them being not being able to see underwater. So we want to make sure that mask won't fog up. So we do a pre-dive treatment to it. There are a variety of different ways to do this and they all have the same kind of application, so I'm just going to list all the different options to you now and then talk you through how to use them. The first one is a fancy anti-fog spray. This is a spray specifically designed to actually use as anti-fog. Again, I do think this is quite expensive for what it is because it's a tiny little bottle, but you don't need to use a lot per time, so you might see this as fine to have. However, compared to the other options, it is definitely the most pricey option.
I'm not just like the rest of you. I'm stronger, I'm smarter, I'm better. I am better.
Second one, this is a diver's favorite, it's baby shampoo. Yep, you can just put a bit You can just put a bit of baby shampoo into your mask and that's going to sort it out. Typically, again, this is done as a bit of a solution, so you want to put a bit of water in there, roughly about 50-50 ratio, and that's going to be used as your anti-fog solution. Another option is dishwashing liquid, same as the baby shampoo. Instead, you're going to put dishwashing liquid with a bit of water in your mask and use that as your solution. The fourth one is good old toothpaste. Yep, if you want your mask to smell nice and minty, you can use toothpaste. And finally is good old saliva. Yeah, you heard me correctly. You can use saliva to do this. Top tip on this one, greener the cleaner, whiter the brighter. I know, it's a bad joke, but I'm going to still say it. So with whatever choice you want to use for your anti-fog solution, what you're going to do is put a bit of it into your mask. Don't get carried away, you don't need a lot of it. What you do want to do is make sure it's very thoroughly applied to the inside lens of your mask, so give it a good rub and make sure it's really in there. Some people will say then leave it to sit for a minute or so. I'm going to be honest, I typically skip this step though and move on to the next step. But if you are finding that your mask sometimes does fog up, you might just need to have it sit a bit longer with the solution in, or even put a bit more solution in than you did before. But when you're ready to put the mask on, what you want to do is rinse out your solution with water. This does not have to be fresh water, you can use seawater. So if by the side of the boat, you can literally just lean over, dunk your mask into this ocean, make sure not to drop it, and then put it straight onto your face. Putting it straight onto your face afterwards is very important. You don't want to waste much time after you've rinsed out the mask. But make sure though when you are putting your mask, you're doing it in the proper way that I have shown you how to do. And once that mask is on your face, you should not take it off until you finish diving. If you do take your mask off before you get finished diving, your mask can fog up again, so you're gonna have to redo this whole anti-fog treatment. And honestly, it's just a pain, so just don't be that person, just leave the mask on your face.
Why are you the way that you are? Honestly, every time I try to do something fun or exciting, you make it not that way.
And that is all you need to know about your mask. You are ready to rock. If you found this video helpful, I'd really appreciate it if you give it a like. It helps me out a ton and also help other divers find this video too. And if you're looking to improve your diving skills, you can check out my previous video on the 10 best skills to learn to improve your diving. In any case, I've been Tom. I really appreciate you watching my video today, and I hope to see you in the next one. Until then, I hope you have some amazing dives.